You're listening to The Bird Bath. Welcome back to The Bird Bath. Each week we scrape the surface of the news you need to know, so let's get into it. Obviously, our top story this week had to be Vet and Small Door's merger. This was a big story that everyone seemed to be talking about. I was coming back from vacation, I think, when this was happening, and it was a big one. It's something that's definitely been on the minds of a lot of people. What are some of these sub-100 practice groups going to be doing as the market continues to shift? And it seems like this is kind of that new pace that we're seeing. We talked about this, or I wrote an article about this at the end of 2025, calling this year the Great Compression. And the intention and the idea here is that we're starting to see groups acquiring groups, or groups partnering with groups as a way to increase their overall footprint and continue the consolidation. When there's not as much opportunity for practice consolidation, or the multiples aren't there, or some of the numbers aren't making sense, pulling together de novo groups like a Vet and a Small Door, or like a Chewy and a Modern Animal, definitely makes a lot of sense. So Vet and Small Door are joining forces. They're going to have over 55 clinics. From my count, it looks like it's about 61, but we might see some of those closing. Never certain exactly what's going to happen as things change. But the two companies have a bit of an overlapping footprint. They're both in the Northeast and the Midwest, I guess, if you throw Chicago in there. And they're kind of on a similar mindset. They have some, both are running a membership model. Obviously, Vet is a bigger player in the urgent care space, but has been diving more into the GP world, while the team at Small Door is much more on that GP side of things. And we reached out to the teams, and we're actually able to get a special comment directly from the team. Florent Pierre, who's the new CEO. He was the CEO of Small Door, and now he's the new CEO of the combined company, as well as Joe Altabelli, who was the CFO and president of Vet and is now the executive strategic advisor for the companies, put out a statement together. They said, "For years, our companies grew side by side in the same neighborhoods, competing for the same incredible talent and pet families. When the opportunity came to join forces, the real question wasn't why, but why not sooner?" Something we've talked about, right? By combining Vet and Small Door, we are moving past market competition to build a durable, self-sustaining organization of over 55 practices. This next chapter is a deliberate choice to unite our strengths and build a combined company that truly controls its own future. In the press release, they discussed who was taking over, right? And that's always the question of merger versus acquisition. Small Door recently brought in some large capital, $55 million of additional capital. So in my guess, in sort of the cycle of where the capital is for both these companies, I would imagine that Small Door is making more of an investment into the acquisition of some of the Vet portfolio, which would make sense as you see that Florence is keeping on and growing and continuing as CEO, with Joe helping as a major strategic advisor and an executive strategic advisor, while the chief veterinary officer for Small Door will be leading the medical side of things for the combined company. They're expecting it to stay two separate brands for now, with the intention of slowly transitioning them to one unified footprint or one unified brand as we go forward. So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on and continue to see who's the next that's going to fall and who's the next that's going to be creating their new group in the space. Now, Wonderdog is a new company that's on the market. They're launching at-home blood work. The big difference here from what we've seen from some of the other at-home testing companies is that they're actually sending a vet tech to your house. The vet tech does a blood draw that then checks for 40 plus biomarkers. They provide an AI health companion app, and they do one draw annually, and they're launching in New York and LA right now. Now, the team behind this is not from the vet med side of things, but the co-CEO and one of the co-founders of the company was the driving force behind BarkBus, which was the largest mobile dog grooming company in the US. So they know that aspect of getting places and getting people to where they need to be. But the vet med side of things is a new player for the team. Now, the same capital that funded BarkBus, Maveron, is the same team that's funding Wonderdog as well. And so it's a tried and true method here for this company. It's someone that they've seen raise money. They brought in an additional $5 million of capital to kick this off. And the thing that I think is particularly smart about this is that they're not looking to build their own lab. They're kind of that intermediary. They're that partner in many of the ways that your vet clinic is that partner. They're taking the blood work, they're processing and they're sending it out to Antech to be able to allow Antech to do all of those lab work it up, and then get the results back to the client. So it's a disruptive place here where we're taking this blood work, which was one of the things that I think a lot of people thought was one of the sacred cows within the industry, and pulling it out of the clinic, making it easier to do at home, and perhaps introducing another layer for people to be able to continue their treatments or their understanding of their pet's health, and specifically their dog's health, outside of what's just happening. The at-home testing site is obviously a really busy one that we see a lot of things in. Everfur launched, Innovative Pet Labs is out there. We've seen companies come and go in the space. We've seen companies that are going direct to vet channel, like QSM Diagnostics. We're seeing people that are pushing to make this something that happens exclusively outside the clinic, and everything in between. So Wonderdog is kind of that hybrid approach, and it's going to be interesting to see how the data shares over to the vet world, and to see, taking the data that we got last week from Whisker Docs about when people actually come in, is this going to be something that people see more markers that encourage them to do more regular appointments to their vet? Or is this going to supplant some of those visits that are already declining? I think only time will tell, but congratulations to the team at Wonderdog for the launch. Can't wait to see where this all goes. Now, it's sometimes it's funny. These stories to me seem to come in waves, right? We talk about consolidation or private equity or share prices or things like that. And I feel like we've been hitting a lot on telemedicine. It was the hot thing in 2020. And it seems as if people are still trying to find the perfect space for it to fit in. Well, Petsmart has put another big stake in the ground along with their partnership with Vetster. So the retail chain keeps inching closer and deeper into the vet care channel. Obviously, they've got their Petsmart footprint of clinics. They have that long-standing historic relationship that's pretty much gone with Banfield. But earlier this year, Petsmart rolled out Vetster across their US retail locations, and now they have it across their Canadian businesses as well. So they're rolling Vetster out as a telehealth partner across 140 plus Canadian stores. But the interesting thing isn't that it's rolling out, but who it's rolling out to. So PetSmart's associates across their stores will have direct access to licensed veterinarians through Vetster's secure virtual care platform when there's a pet health concern. So the intention here is to make the associates in the stores a more trusted resource. If a pet has a health concern, or if someone's coming in and asking these types of questions, right? Hey, my dog is losing weight, or their coat's not as shiny, or there's a food question or a treat question, or what toy is the best. Now Vetster is going to be able to participate and help the PetSmart associates improve the way that they're working in the space. So it's kind of a cool way to increase the knowledge base. And again, it's another one of these layers that's pulling the line of who is the resource, who is the knowledge base in the space. Feel like I'm actually sitting on the ground recording this because I'm at a hotel, but I feel like I'm on a soapbox here. Where is the care happening? Who is the resource? Who are the people that everyone's looking to understand what's actually happening? The previous story is saying a technician can come at home and get you biomarker tests through reputable labs. Now we're talking about Vetster allowing the associates in a pet retail store to be able to get you in touch with a veterinarian to answer specific questions. So big stuff here to think about. And it's obviously something that's important, and it's important to figure out where you want to fit into in the veterinary channel. Now, the final thing here is more of a kind of a summary story that came from the pet food industry website. They showed that pet food stocks underperformed the S&P 500 in the first quarter of the year. So publicly traded pet food companies' earnings were strong, but they did still continue to drag behind what the total S&P 500 index had. From Cascadia Capital's Pet Industry Insight Summer 2026 report, they showed that aggregate revenue growth among a basket of publicly traded pet companies slowed to a negative 0.7% in the first quarter of 2026, compared to an 8.8% growth during the same period of the year earlier. Overall, if you look at the total amount and you look at EBITDA and all of that, there's a 4.9% year over year growth, but it is still behind what the overall S&P is doing. Nestle Purina continued to grow, Freshpet continued to grow, and a lot of the other companies in the space were growing, but they were not keeping pace with the, I guess, probably wild numbers that we're seeing from the S&P 500 as people are continuing to grow and invest in this, what I'm calling, and I think this isn't a landmark comment, but the AI bubble. It's definitely something that is going to be interesting to keep in mind because we're seeing that people are making investments, right? We talked about new companies that are launching. We talked about some of the overall pieces coming together. Wonderdog raising capital, Bond and Small Door coming together, Axton Bioscience with their IPO coming. So things are still happening and growing in the space, but are they not growing at the same pace that people are going to want? Or is this the opportunity for people that are scared of the AI bubble to perhaps touch base with an industry, ours, the vet care and the vet channel and the animal health world, an industry and a market that has consistently been resilient to some of these massive bursts and bubbles that we've seen, while still somewhat cooling off from the highs of the numbers we saw during COVID? It's a big question to ask, but it's one to sort of think about as you listen to stories here and keep reading about what else is happening in the industry. For more on these and other stories, join us by subscribing to our Substack. There's a link in the bio, and don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing and rating the show. For the Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.